What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another live broadcast of the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devindra. This week joined by Deputy Editor Cherlynn Lowe. Hey, Cherlynn.
Howdy.
Howdy. And podcast producer Ben Elman. Hey, Ben.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. How is everybody doing in the chat today? Actually, didn't pop out the chat yet, so let's see.
Howdy to the chat, I guess.
Yeah, Simon B says Montreal in the house.
Woo woo.
Very cool. Oh, Eduardo says his Pixel 9 Pro XL just arrived. Congrats.
Pixel
we
9 Pro XL.
winning?
It's just.
Are we twinsies?
What is the color of that? I can't quite tell.
This one's called Rose Quartz, but it's a really nice pale pink. I really like it.
That's a really nice color. It's very better than the stuff we saw from the rumors around Apple, where people are like, the new iPhone Pros may be slightly gold. Maybe I don't know.
Kind of gold.
It's so boring because it's all metal that they have to deal with. Basically, how's everybody else? Hello, chat room.
Broccoli says good morning, watching from Laval. I think.
Yeah, where is Laval? I was wondering about that myself.
Tom Rogers is in. Is that Florida? Is FLA short for Florida?
I think
I think so.
Jeremy Thomas is from Charlotte, NC. Also,
yeah, Broccoli says, Quebec, Canada. So actually, Broccoli and Simon are in the same province.
Hello.
Yeah, the thing about Canada airport codes is quite hilarious to me.
A lot of things. I love Canada, but yeah, the dealing with a lot of the airports and everything is kind of a mess.
YYC, totally know where that is. YUL, that makes sense for Montreal.
I think it has to make sense.
I'm so sorry, Tom. I didn't mean to make
it doesn't. It does not make sense at all.
What on earth is FLA? Sorry, go ahead.
I think it might be because all of the airport codes in like North America, maybe even the Americas, need to like be
starting with. It's a different code too. It's like a different. What I read was,
but they need to be unique, and so there might be like something else that took like the MTN.
Could be. What I did see was on Threads, someone asked that question like, Canada or UK, like what's wrong with all your airport codes starting with Y? And then someone else pointed out that they're actually a different type of airport code than the ones that we're used to, which is like JFK, EWR. I mean,
gotta love it.
It's like a different set of codes.
This week, folks, we have reviews. We've got reviews of the new Pixel devices. So Cherlynn has edited those reviews and can talk about these things. We have talked so much about these devices, so I think we'll be directly about like what are our overall impressions at this point. We've also got some news from Gamescom and hey, some other fun news, crazy news going on this week. How's everybody doing? Are we ready to start the live recording?
Yeah, I am recording.
For first timers, we're recording our audio podcast, so you're just seeing us do that. We will keep an eye on you in the chat, but we won't always directly respond to you. We'll try to do some Q&A in between sections, okay?
Yeah. Sorry we can't be like Twitch streamers, but I do want, as the producer, I want to make sure that people who can't listen to the podcast or watch the stream live don't feel left out, and they're just like listening to us respond to a bunch of people in chat. So hi to Tom Rogers, hi to Jeremy Thomas, hi to James
Eduardo Avalon.
Yes.
James Royce, yep. Quinn Thompson.
Italy. So another thing that we're going to do is we're going to count down from 3. If you've seen the stream before, we're going to do like a clap or snap your fingers. This is like the clapper board in TV and movie sets. Then we're going to do like 5 or 10 seconds of silence, and then we're actually going to get into the recording of the show. So if you want to put clap or snap fingers emojis in the chat, that's always fun. It makes us feel like
make some noise.
Make some noise, but also keep the emojis appropriate. Let's just say that.
I don't believe there are any emojis that are inappropriate unless you make them inappropriate.
The
so
symbol.
Get your mind.
Yeah,
we symbolize things inappropriately.
Yeah, sure.
Damn, Ben.
Blame it on my own dirty mind. Okay, whatever.
Eggplants are okay in our chat. It's just an eggplant. Just an eggplant.
How much?
That's fine too.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get off of this. So let's count down from 3, 2, 1. and some silence. While we're doing the silence, thumbs up the stream. It helps people find us. Okay, silence over. Let's get into talking about the Pixel.
Let's go, folks. And
I like how during the
yeah.
silence I took a giant sip of water through the straw and it went into the
Yeah, well,
that's fine.
sorry.
that's
think
why
that
the
we have a-
silence is always a little longer than it might otherwise need to be, because
Yeah.
people do, like, they'll shift around their chairs. It happens all the time. Don't worry about it.
Yep. Okay, folks. Let's go in 3, 2, 1. What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devindra Hardawar.
I'm Deputy Editor Cherlynn, though.
This week, we've got reviews for the Pixel 9 and 9 Pro and XLs and all the various Pixel 9 models, except for the Fold. That's not out yet, so that's very sad. That's going to be a couple of weeks away. And we've also got some news from Gamescom 2024, which is, I guess, still happening, but most of the major news has already happened from the opening night and some follow-up events. And yeah, got some weekly news as well. As always, folks, if you're enjoying the show, please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes and drop us an email at podcast@engadget.com. And join us Thursdays, typically around 10:45 a.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel, where we live stream the show and you can talk to us. We'll show off some gadgets. I know Cherlynn has something she wants to show off soon during our Q&As, and it's a fun time. We've also got a good group of people here, so join us. We've got the Pixel phones now, Cherlynn. I'm sure you've been like in editing hell for the past week. Can you broadly tell us? So how do we feel about let's focus on the Pixel 9 right now. How do we feel about the Pixel 9?
All right.
Yeah.
The Pixel 9, I wasn't expecting it to get a super high score,
Yeah.
but Sam, who reviewed the Pixel 9 for us, seems really impressed. I mean, like, look,
Sam Rutherford, senior writer. Yeah.
Sam Rutherford is our like Android main person, and he is also our photables person. So having him review like the most standard Pixel 9, I was just like, he's gonna be bored, right? I was like, this man's used to his big foldable screens, but Sam really enjoyed the Pixel 9. And like, to contextualize it for everyone, I went from reading Matt's review first of the Pixel 9 Pro and Pro XL, so Matt Smith, our UK bureau chief. I went from editing him and then going on to Sam, whose review went up the next day. And like, again, you read the Pro review, you're like, of course it's good. Of course everyone liked
Matt
the Pro.
scored the
But then you
Pro
go to
very, very high. Like, that is surprisingly high.
well, let's get to that.
Yeah,
I wanted
yeah.
to talk about that, but
Okay.
you asked to start with the 9, so we'll start with the 9, the basic.
Well, if you
baby.
feel more interested in the Pro, you can start there. It's up to you.
We can.
Yeah.
I've just started talking about the 9. Let's finish this thought. So after I went from like Matt to Sam, I was expecting like, I wish this was the Pro, you know, kind of that vibe. I didn't get that. I actually got Sam going like, at the end, he said, like, truly, if you don't need the Gemini Advanced AI, if you don't need like a telephoto, like a dedicated telephoto camera, you may even be very happy with the Pixel 9, which is like, again, what we always differentiate between the Pro and the regular flagships.
I mean,
is that,
it's the
they're missing
iPhone
these
and
two features.
iPhone Pro situation too, right? Like, same
Exactly.
thing.
It's the same situation now. So I think it used to be, though, in previous years, that because there was never a smaller Pixel Pro, it was always like a larger, the Pixel Pro was always a larger phone. We had more reason to recommend the 9 because of size.
Sure,
but now
sure.
it's like, no, even if there's like an alternative size in the premium top end like sort of variant, we still are like, the 9's pretty freaking good. So I was just surprised by that. Now,
Okay.
back to your point, the more interesting review, in my opinion, is the fact that Matt decided to award the Pixel 9 Pro and 9 Pro XL respectively like really high scores for any Android handset ever for us.
Yeah.
94 and 92 is where we landed with the 9 Pro and 9 Pro XL respectively. And again, to contextualize and give you all like a little bit of behind the scenes, he scored them a little bit higher at first, and I was like, whoa.
We're not gonna have a 100 out of 100, Matt.
Yeah, I just was like, I think we might need to tamper this a little bit. Like, I feel like we're very excited, but we need to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room. Like, what are they? They're not perfect, right? So I think we tweaked, and in the tweaking, we tweaked the original scores for both devices. Both went down a little bit. I think if you look at our score for last year's Pixel 8 Pro, it was 93. And again, this is like way too in the weeds. And both Matt and I will be like, we hate arguing over like 1 or 2 points. But here's the reasoning. 93 for last year's, and usually we're like, this is just as good if not better, so maybe we'll go to 93 or 91. But then we brought the Pixel 9 Pro XL down a point, and that is in part because Matt still wanted to have like a big enough gap between the 9 Pro and the 9 Pro XL.
Fair.
And
yeah.
so 93 just wasn't giving us a lot of room. And then the other reason is that the 9 Pro XL actually, even though it is the same size, its screen is 0.1 of an inch bigger this year, which like doesn't sound like much when you're talking about a frame that's still the same size. But the screen for Matt, who boldly claimed he had larger than average hands or average or whatever, not too small hands. I don't know what he's telling us there, but he was all like, it
Big
was
humble
already
brag.
hard for him
Thank
to
you, Matt.
reach.
Yeah.
It was a very humble brag, but even for Matt, it was like hard to reach the corners. And so with that, we were like, all right, it's worth like saying it is unwieldy. It is a more expensive phone than last year. These AI features don't do enough for us to be like, yeah, it's worth that, keeping it same score sort of situation yet. So we brought it down a point, but that's not a bad thing because why? The Pixel 9 Pro, holy crap. It's arguably one of our highest scored phones, around like 94. So obviously you've read these reviews, Devindra. Like, were you shocked at the scores we gave?
I mean, I was shocked at the score of the 9 Pro. The XL, being a little more unwieldy, I was not surprised there. But it does seem like, I don't know. I was talking about this with Sam a little bit too, like around his review. It is funny to see Google's journey on the way it's thinking of Android phones, right? Because they launched with, let's go back in history, right? They launched with like the HTC G1, right? And some of the like early Motorola's, like stuff from third parties. Then third parties started making a lot of garbage and putting a lot of stuff into Android software. So Google was like, okay, hold up. Let's have these Nexus phones, which are just pure Android, which run all our stuff and doesn't have any of your third party garbage. And at that point, that was never a big seller, right? That was for the fans, the super fans, the people online, the super nerds. Pixel was their attempt to be like, okay, let's screw it. Let's just go iPhone. And I feel like 9 generations in, they finally done it. The camera bar has been chopped up. The design looks a little spiffier. I'm not too surprised. I do feel like it seems like Google like knocked this one out. So I was shocked by the scored number, but yeah, I feel like Google, it's been a long road for Google to get to this point to make like the ideal Android phone, I'd say.
It has. And I mean, I don't know if I would call it the ideal Android phone, even if I think it is a very like significantly improved device over, let's say, the earlier Pixels, even though it feels like over the Pixel 8, which I also like have here, right? And for those of you on the stream, I'm holding it up side by side so you can kind of look, right? The design felt nice on the Pixel 8 Pro. The colors, Google's always nailed the color combo. It feels very different this time. I think you've seen all our reviews mention this independently. Matt Smith in the UK and Sam in New Jersey with both all like, this feels like an iPhone. Matt almost like picked it up and was like,
it looks
this
like
feels like the iPhone. And it looks like an iPhone. And that's not a bad thing, right? Because like they still have enough of a distinction. Like the camera bar is different enough. There's the G logo, I guess. Is that that's a good thing in the sense that it feels premium, it feels solid, it feels like a good real phone. And I'm sure there are people who won't be happy about that. They're like, don't keep copying Apple. All phones are so boring now. They're all the same. Because don't forget, the Samsung S24 series also feel like iPhones. I've got an Samsung S24 in hand as well, and it's like they've all become more or less the same. And whether it's a good or bad thing is really up to you to decide. But for Google, though, the design, it's a huge step up, right? Like they don't feel the need to differentiate. They don't feel the need to do these like incredibly like slimmy, curvy sides anymore to achieve a slightly thinner profile. It feels very grown up. And I wrote a blurb for our best smartphones guide about the Pixel 9 Pro, saying that this feels like a grown up phone. And to Matt's point in his review, a showcase for Gemini AI. And I think that that's what these phones are all about. Pixel phones have always been about the camera, but like these or like camera plus, you know?
Are we liking the AI features? And we should also differentiate between the local stuff, which you don't have to pay for, and then
Mhm.
there's the fancier stuff, which comes free with the pro devices for a year, but you will have to pay for that eventually, at least $20 a month. Is the AI
Exactly.
stuff any good?
I mean, so the capability and the like actual good of it, like the how well it works, right?
Mhm.
Seems like pretty good. I mean, like AdMe, everyone's been having fun with. Like again,
Right,
independently, both
right.
Sam and Matt were like, we use AdMe to clone ourselves. Um, and AdMe, to be clear, is the feature on the camera where you can have you're taking a group shot and then you can someone takes a photo first and then hand the phone off to someone else, and then you, the photographer, can go and take your place in the picture. And the phone will give some AR guidance to show you where to frame up the shot
Mhm.
and to make you in the picture. um so that seemed impressive enough and fun enough that they both were like playing around with it, because it's only been like a week since these phones were launched, and the review units are in hand for about that long too. um Excuse me. It's not enough time to say how much
Mhm.
we'll use this in the real world. Things like the Pixel Screenshots app, I think there are problems here and there where like Sam enjoyed it. Sam really
Yeah,
found it
yeah.
useful. Matt had issues with it. Like he points out that like you can't automatically back up your entire Google Photos history on setup. So it'd be like you will have to manually import pictures one by one. Um, and
Hmm.
it's just not. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with like manually importing pictures, and this is a huge privacy thing because some people's
Yeah, it's
like,
definitely a privacy thing, yeah.
yeah, it's like Google Photos. Mine is like so many years in history, and I don't want to
Yeah,
like
yeah.
give it access to everything at once. So anyway, there's also the Pixel Studio app, which I think both of Sam and Matt liked because it was fun, but both of them were also like, like I think this is more of a criticism of image generators like that in general, where like you feed Midjourney a prompt and it comes up, how much are you going to
Mhm,
use that? We're not really going to do
mhm.
that all day. It's not that much useful. Um, so those are the main AI features. I mean, the rest of the stuff, like your typical Gmail summary things, or like even Apple Intelligence is trying to do some of these things.
Clear.
I didn't get a real big sense that they were that in like crazy good. I mean, Sam
Yeah,
mentioned call notes in his piece, but I think none of us have really like
mhm.
put it through the ringer through like really difficult calls to see if it works through all those situations as well. So
And that's the thing that will, like, summarize your call and, like, give you
yes,
notes,
and give
like,
you
the thing in text. That's cool.
a
Yeah.
transcript and a summary, which is
Mhm.
cool. I think, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
cool. So, but I mean, overall, I guess any surprises, any surprising highlights from the Cherlynn, or any like surprising disappointments?
I mean, I think zoom in hands on videos is a
Mhm.
weird like it took them 1 year to actually bring it out to a device.
Yes. Yes.
And then the fact that it's not on the 9, you have to have a 9 Pro to use it, was what Sam pointed out in the 9, which is, I would expect that from Sam, right? Who's used
Mhm.
to reviewing Pro phones. Um, and then for Matt, I think but they both pointed out in low light, Google's cameras still far and away better than the competition.
Mhm.
They both meticulously put it through its paces in the camera front. I think we all really enjoy camera testing. And it still came up tops, right? Google still came up tops on camera. And Matt, our review almost didn't get up on time because he had to run the battery test
Uh-huh.
for the Pixel 9 Pro and Pro XL. Well, the Pro arrived a little later than the Pro XL did, so he didn't have as much time. But also, the Pro ran for so long. It
Mhm.
lasted 25 hours on our battery test. That's a lot. I mean, the Pro XL got 23 hours thereabouts. Wait, that's already like longer. The 25-hour mark is
Yeah.
longer than our next closest number, which is the OnePlus 12, I believe. So all around, just incredibly impressive phones. I'm
Mhm.
surprised, and I think that that's what's surprising, right? Like we're like, whoa, these are good.
These are
What?
good. Well, there were a lot of shocks early on. It's like, these are stylish. These seem capable and good. Like, I know, like, I think that's going to be a big compelling factor for a lot of people, surely. And like, Google for
Yeah,
a long time has been like, we're making phones for nerds and for people who don't care as much about Samsung bling and whatever. And now it's just like, no, Google's like, no, we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to do iPhone type
yeah.
stuff. How does this compare to the current Samsung stuff, Sherlyn?
Um, I mean, I think Google has the upper hand in AI for sure and cameras. So I think that's what I was seeing across the board, that like the S24's cameras were good, but in some situations not as good. Although one occasion, like Samsung did better on the Pro XL or something. And then I want to address some of the questions in the chat really quickly. So Mini-Me 1231 asks if we will be comparing the Google AI versus the Apple AI. Obviously, we can't right now because the Apple intelligence stuff isn't out. We could compare Samsung's, to your point, Devindra, Samsung's Galaxy AI to Google's Gemini AI. But like I said, it's just like different applications, different things. Like Samsung's AI, Galaxy AI feature in the Z Flip 6 and the Z Fold 6, which are its latest to feature like new Galaxy AI features, came with like you can draw onto a picture and it'll like add a cat,
Yeah.
that sort of thing to me is really fun, but like the actual use of it, IDK, right? Meanwhile, Google's like got no equivalent feature. It's got auto frame and reimagine, and it's got like Pixel Studio, and so there's no easy way to do an apples to apples comparison. But I also want to address that CUD or CUD, who is a familiar name from our chat, says that whole add me feature, is this something that people want? Because it's a bit weird if it becomes the norm. People would just be adding in all their friends and family and photos when they were never there. Might as well add your cat and dog while you're at it. I don't think you can, after the fact, add people, FYI. So like for add me, it's like you're holding up the phone. And then, for example, I've had family visiting this past couple weeks or so. And if I'm sounding ragged, that's why. And we've been taking like family pictures, right? Like, so it's 4 of us, and we are trying not to like bother people, so we don't ask strangers. Also, you don't always feel safe, right, when you're on the street and like standing in front of a museum and like take a photo for 4 of us, please. Who's to say they won't just run? So I could have my cousin, hold up the phone and take the initial picture while I pose with his mom and dad. And then he comes into the picture. I hold up the phone and I think that there are a lot of specific use cases where it'll be helpful. And I don't think you can add a cat and dog in because you will never get the cat and dog to stay in the place they need them to. So CD cut, I am sorry. But I don't think you can. And I think I would I could see some use for this add me feature.
I'm sure people will figure out ways to like hack it, but it does seem from the demos they did, like it creates like an AR situation of where you are right now.
Like
and
an outline.
If you break that environment, like where it is, like I don't think you can actually even stitch something into that. I think the bigger issue is just like it is weird to have some features locked into just Google's phones when Google is both a company making phones, but also the company providing the software to everybody else. This is very much like Internet Explorer on Windows, or Apple locking down some features just to its devices. Like it feels like if this goes on, people can shout monopoly or something going on here. Do you feel weird about that, Cherlynn? Like some of these just being on Google stuff for so far?
I don't know.
It just seems a little odd because Google is.
By the way, I'm so sorry. I don't know if y'all heard the fire alarm just went off in my place. So if I just suddenly turned, it's because
Your
of that.
fire alarm went off? I heard
like,
something, but I think something
there was
is blocking it.
It's not mine, but some like the building.
It's okay. It's okay.
Went off. So
it's okay. We will. Well, that part of your audio will be muted, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me go on.
You can ask me again the last bit. Sorry.
Yeah. So how do you feel, Cherlynn, about features like this, like very specific features and like interesting features being basically locked into Google's phones and not anybody else's at this point?
I don't know that they're going to always be that way. I think that like for some things, because Gemini Advanced is something that you can apply for and get with any other like phone, right? Like you can apply for, and so some of these features might come out to future Android phones or other branded Android phones. And then with Pixel, there have been a few things that have been locked into Pixel for a very long time, like Pixel UI things, Pixel's call screening, Pixel's like general like call assistance things have been very Pixel phone centric, and I feel like that's because it's built so deeply into the OS as opposed to like it's an app, right? The Pixel Screenshots app, Pixel Recorder, those things have eventually opened up to some other maybe Samsung, maybe like I don't even think there's other Android players out there really, but Samsung, right? And they work closely enough with Samsung to be like eventually maybe, right? Circle to search is a feature that launched first on Samsung, even though it was a Google feature. So I feel like it's not necessarily super locked in. And even if it were, to answer that part of your question, I don't know that is such a huge deal. I think maybe Google does need to keep some of this for itself, right? Like we know that Android's supposed to be like the most open ecosystem. It's supposed to be like welcoming and like whatever.
Sure.
But Google at this point needs to be able to play the game the way Samsung, Apple, especially Apple,
Does
have
it
been playing it.
though? It's inherently unfair to be both the software vendor doing it and also be like, oh, also, hey, partners, we're also going to directly compete with you in hardware and also keep features to ourselves that you can never touch. Like that is where
Absolutely.
anti-competitive stuff like starts to arise, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I think Google has its feet and toes in so many like
Yeah.
things that
Yeah.
like it's anti-competitive in a lot of other areas. But I think on the
Absolutely.
Pixel front, like it's generally been trying to bring Pixel first or Pixel only features to
Yeah.
more devices. But then like, you know, when you said the whole like, oh, you're talking about the software and the hardware,
Mhm.
I was like at first really readying to reply being like Apple does that, but then you were saying that it's not fair because Google competes with its own customers. So like,
Yes. Yes.
I get that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that like I don't know how they're going about it really.
And they've already
I wonder
been
if
the U.S. government has declared them a monopoly,
Yep.
right? Or at least a U.S. judge
Antitrust.
has antitrust. So search they are a search monopoly.
Yep.
Android is such a open ecosystem that everybody supports. Like, I just feel like Google is going to start to be worried about this because we already talked about the potential repercussions from the search monopoly thing. Like, could be like, hey, maybe you should split up a little bit. Maybe we should take out some of these parts of Google and make them separate companies. I wonder if the company itself is a little afraid of that because it's not just like, oh, we're gonna slap a $5 or $10 million fine on you, which is like the money Google, you know, that it's in their couch cushions.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
more serious things could happen. Yeah.
Can I quickly go
Yes.
back to the chat for specific to Pixel questions too? The Pixel 9, I mean. So, Daniel Diaz asks where Mark is, and we're all like, yes, where's Mark Dell? Has Sam, maybe Sam in an alternate timeline, is like, would love to hear about the heat management of the Tensor 4. And this is something that did come up in our Pixel 9 Pro review. So Matt noticed that the Tensor G4 actually runs a lot cooler than older Pixel phones. So like, sorry, it's very weird to be like the Tensor G4 runs cooler than the Pixel 8 Pro because like where else is the Tensor G3 going to be? Obviously the Pixel 8 Pro. But I think it's important to focus on the phone than just the chip because even though the chip does supposedly run cooler, it's also the fact that like to DPro9's point in the chat, Pixel 9 series has a better like thermal dissipation system. So like it's a lot cooler. I did notice that yes, the Pixel 8 Pro that I was using would run really hot. I haven't, I think, pushed the 9 Pro XL enough to feel like it would in that circumstance otherwise be hot. But I've never felt it run hot, right? So like to that point, it certainly seems to run cooler. Matt definitely pushed it harder in his review and was like, it was cooler. So Hassam, I hope that answers your question. And I mean, I think the fact that the phone's a little bit thicker of a profile is partly because it needed to build in some sort of like better cooling system. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, any other thoughts on these things? I would want to point people to our reviews. Go check them out on the site.
Go check out our site. Pixel 9 Pro review's been up since yesterday, and our Pixel 9 review's up today. The on sale date for that series of phones is up today, and then we have so many other Pixel devices coming in. Send me your questions about them. Like, what do you want to know most about the 9 Pro Fold, the Pixel Watch 3, and the Pixel Buds Pro 2? And then I also, did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that. Are you okay?
I never know if I'm okay.
I mean, is it telling you to leave the room?
It's just
okay, but
anyway,
maybe we have to wait a couple minutes.
Let's just do Q&A.
Let's do a little Q&A, and then we can like put
What's up,
end on this segment.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Cherlynn.
I think we might be done though. Let me say one line, and then we'll do a quick Q&A. So my one line is, last week also on Saturday, like I did a quick like Engadget review recap, and I will be doing one of these for the all the Pixel products at some point. So like again, I really want to know your thoughts on the upcoming devices before we review them so that I can like go into them looking for those questions. So send them our way, podcast@engadget.com. You can always email me, CHER@engadget.com as well.
Cool. Okay, we can break here for chat.
Q&A. I see a lot of Q&A. Sorry, do you mind if I jump in because
Go
I see
for
a
it.
few
Go
that I
for
want
it.
to
Yeah,
answer.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Deepak Murthy is like, how about the battery consumption? We did mention this earlier in the episode. They're very long
Pretty good.
lasting for the Pixel Pro series.
We
and
do
also
a
the
video
number.
rundown test, right? So it's not like
Yes.
a bunch of different things, but it's video, so it's something.
It's a looped video. And we're in the process of updating, I think, some of our battery tests,
Mhm.
but that's not ready yet.
Yeah, I was about to ask that as
Mhm.
kind of like an audience surrogate question
Yep.
because I don't do the phone reviews at Engadget. I just do the podcast. When you're doing the battery test, you're talking about the video loop, right?
Mhm.
Or
Yes.
do you do other things?
The simplest for us to replicate right now is the video rundown test because
Yeah.
you have to consider that if we wrote an app that we can't run on Apple or iOS,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
The bane of our existence is cross-platform benchmarking, and on PCs, on like there are a couple Geekbench runs across everything. That's super helpful, but batteries on phones, it's a pain. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
So I
So
guess
anyway,
the best thing you can do is literally just go to YouTube and loop a video.
Mhm.
yeah, so that would be over Wi-Fi. And I think the one reason we don't do that, that's part of I think the decision we're looking at is to like, do we want to loop it over Wi-Fi instead?
Mhm.
I think the part of the issue was in early days, like the type of Wi-Fi you had more of a bearing on the results or something like that. Couldn't tell you why we didn't use that always. But know that me, Devindra, and Sam are all talking about like how to upgrade our tests, and we want to
Mhm.
make sure they're like accurate and like useful for people. I also wanted to reply to Mike Jones Jr., who's all like, "Where
Mhm.
is Android 15?" And I'm like, "You're asking me."
Yeah.
Google, like we're wondering too.
It doesn't matter as much as Gemini. Like Gemini is the new like underlying thing I feel like Google wants to get out there and
Yeah.
update faster than Android at this point. So that tells you
And
something.
yeah, thanks to Deepro9 and Brent Mitchell who are like, "Get out, run! Jason Voorhees is in the building." Yeah.
Oh no.
Thank you.
We need to do the
Simon B
noise.
is like, "Yahoo." Yes.
Yes,
Hi,
that
sup?
is
I
us.
think you mean like as opposed
Yeah.
to Google, but
Deeper 9 points out Pixel users are basically the beta testers for Google, and I think
Yep.
that's a good way to frame it. A lot of these things come there first.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
occasionally slowly get to other people. There's a good thing Dale DeVernon says, doesn't a monopoly mean you don't have a choice?
I
There
was
are many
about to
other
talk about that.
browsers and search engines that you could use in place of Chrome and search, and no one's stopping you to change. You should go listen to our discussion around this monopoly and go read our coverage and other coverage around it, because specifically what the US court found was like Google is paying other companies billions of dollars to make itself the default on those devices. And by doing so, it's sort of like
And most people don't question the default.
most people don't question, don't change or anything. And they're saying that is an unfair competitive move because Google itself is so large and is already the dominant thing. So there it is getting to like specifics here, but I think there are things that the court has called out that seem legitimately kind of messy. So it's not just about being forced to do one thing, it's about what is the default? Why is it the default? What is
And
happening to competition? Are they free to grow or not? Yeah.
yeah, and I think the general question is like, is one of these companies just so big that they're taking
Yeah.
up all of the air out of the room for other companies? If there was a better search platform
Mhm.
startup that was, just getting started right now, would it have a possibility of like growing to challenge Google, or is Google just going to buy it because Google has so much money?
So much
they
money.
won't. I mean, that's what the
Mhm.
antitrust. Like, if they
Yeah,
buy another competitor, they
exactly.
shouldn't, right? Like,
Yeah. And the news around this also brought up that number from Mozilla, which I found to be freaking wild. I'm still thinking about it right now. Like $510 million of the Mozilla Foundation's revenue. They've only reported 593 million in 2021-22. 510 million comes from Google. So that is Google basically through funding a nonprofit directly having influence in
Yeah.
Firefox in another browser, and also the search that goes in that browser. But also, what does that mean for browser competition? Because if this deal ends, the Mozilla Foundation is dead. They don't have money. So this is like, industry rippling news potentially. Mhm.
Yeah, I just want to say hi to Dano Diaz who joined in Lee as well. But
Hello.
like, Walt, Gunther, and Deepak Murthy both have questions. So, and Simon B.
Mhm.
So Simon B is like, question: do we know what feature will be cloud features that older Pixels will be able to get and the on-device features. I think I'm confused as to the last part of this question, but do we know what feature will be cloud-based? I think anything that's Gemini events, but it sounds like they're all like this is not very clear yet. Some of them are like Gemini Nano based, so they're all like online. I mean, on device features. The lighter ones that are, I believe, the ones that are way more sensitive. So things like the call notes. If I'm not wrong, screenshots is a Gemini Nano, so like on device feature. I have this information somewhere, Deepak Murthy, Simon B. So I will get it out for you. And Deepak Murthy says, is Gemini Live really useful, or is it just a chatbot on steroids? Yeah, so Matt, in his review, that crazy man Matt, says he doesn't like talking verbally to an assistant. He likes typing to assistants. And because Gemini Live right now is a very like audio conversation first, or to the point where even if you're like talking while looking at the screen, there's not quite a visual like transcript on screen. You'd wait till after your conversation's done before you get like the transcript, right? So like as you're talking and Google's responding or Gemini's responding, it doesn't like type out the subtitles or whatever. I'm like, why don't you just do that? A, it's better for accessibility, and B, like it's easier to follow if you're in a noisy environment. And Google was like, oh yeah, right. I was like, all right, go ahead, bro.
Consumer friendly features. Interesting. Haven't thought of it.
Anyway. I don't know if it's like say really useful or just a chatbot on steroids, in part because, to echo both Sam and Matt, I think we need a bit more time. Like I said, Matt, being a person who prefers typing, would not find it useful. At least in this iteration, because unless they add that Type 2 Gemini Live feature, it's not gonna be useful for Matt. So it depends on you. Depends on you. But yeah, I mean, I think we need to give it a bit more time.
Okay. Are you sure everything's okay on your end, Cherlynn?
I think I'm fine. It's just the residual like trips. I haven't heard any movement. You know what I mean? Like people aren't running.
Nobody's knocking at your door.
Nobody's trying to get me
getting
out.
calls from your super. Okay, all right.
Because the
really
most
going very well.
embarrassing thing possible would be that R.I.P. Cherlynn, she died recording a podcast.
Embarrassing is the word you chose for this?
Embarrassing. Put it on your tombstone.
I am the oh well, okay.
Tragic, she died posting. Yeah.
Unfortunate. Sad. You went with embarrassing then.
Yes.
I see where your brain's at. I see where your head's at.
No, I'm not calling you embarrassing.
No, I meant this is embarrassing for you if I died.
No,
as opposed to, yes, but as opposed to tragic and like sad, you would be embarrassed first that I died.
Yeah, no, that's generally how I feel.
I would be embarrassed for Cherlynn
right now.
Yeah, yeah. Put that on her tombstone. All right, we should move on because we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Ben, are you ready to chat too?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm recording, but actually, while we're stopped right now, I did want to ask if we wanted to talk about Flying Lotus putting ringtones in iOS.
I can, throw that. Just mention that somewhere towards the end. That was cool. Yeah.
Quickly, I want to say that Eddie D had a question, which is so far with what you've experienced, Pixel 9 or Pro Fold phone, what would you pick? We can't say yet because we haven't reviewed the Pixel 9 Pro Fold. So just come back, Eddie, in like, I don't know, a week or two. I don't know.
A little while.
And then we'll talk about that.
I mean, I keep getting this question from people, and it's like, well, it's almost like $1,000 difference between the non-fold and the normal fold. So, do you want a folding phone?
$1,800.
Do you have an extra, $800+ for this thing? Then okay, sure, go for it. I guess I don't know. Okay, we've got some Gamescom news. Ben is going to join us for that chat.
So introduce me at the beginning.
I will introduce you. Cherlynn, feel free to like mute for that thing too, unless you're chiming in, because especially with all the fire alarm stuff, this is a good time.
I not only might, I don't know if I would mute because I probably might not be talking. You know what I mean? And if I don't talk, fine. If I talk, and whatever, we'll figure it out.
Just in case there's more fire alarm shit, and then hopefully by the time we get to other news, it'll all calm down. Okay. All right, let's move on with another section here. Let's move on to some news from Gamescom 2024, which is happening right now in Cologne, Germany. We are not there in person, I believe, but we're covering a lot of news from the event and some highlights here. And joining us for this discussion is our podcast producer, Ben Ellman. Hey, Ben.
Because when we're talking about video games, it's Ben time.
It's Ben time, and we don't want to break Cherlynn's brain with some of this game stuff, because I'm sure Cherlynn does not care about the Indiana Jones game coming to Xbox. I don't know. Do you, Cherlynn?
I have heard that young Indiana Jones.
What?
who was the actor? Shit.
You mean Shia LaBeouf?
You mean
no,
River
no, no, no,
Phoenix?
no. Young, what's his face? Young. Crap. This older man.
Okay, this is
Not
why young Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
This
Young
is why
Harrison
Ben is
Ford.
on this segment. This is why Ben is helping us out.
Yeah,
while
all
we
right,
talk
so
Anyway,
about
I've
stuff.
heard that young
trade in-
Harrison Ford is hot. Anyway, that's all.
Yes,
Go
but
for
It doesn't. But it doesn't look like Harrison Ford. It's a totally different.
I know. I'm just saying that when I
character
hear
model.
Indiana Jones, I think.
Okay, so
Harrison Ford
Cherlynn
might
is
be young
talking about the
Harrison Ford.
CG version of young Harrison Ford that
No,
was
not
in the
CG.
latest.
I've been
well,
sent pictures of him on his heyday.
AI. Okay, well, yes, he was hot. Yes, but also in the most recent movie, they used AI to de-age him, so you get a glimpse of
Yikes.
that old hot Harrison Ford face. Anyway, we're talking about the game
Sorry.
here. This game is one of the like rare exclusives that Microsoft has, and there's a lot of talk about this thing. This is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It's coming from it's developed by Xbox subsidiary Machine Games. I believe this came as part of the whole ZeniMax acquisition. So when Microsoft bought id Software, Arcane, Bethesda, Machine Games came alongside that, and I believe there was a deal to get this game to Sony's eventually. So here's what we learned is that this game is coming to Xbox and PC on December 9th. It's coming to the PlayStation 5 a couple months later in spring 2025. And the nerds, especially the Microsoft nerds, the Xbox fans have gone a little crazy because they're like, our exclusive. What's happening now? Do you have thoughts about this, Cherlynn or Ben?
This is Microsoft admitting that not very many people have Xboxes, and
Oh,
they
absolutely.
don't want this to just be a PC game.
Yeah, Microsoft is a business and they like to sell games, and unfortunately their hardware has not done a good job of that. So I think that's the basic thing here. Does this feel odd to you, Cherlynn, or is this just like weird fanboy infighting at this point?
I always think of it as strange fanboy infighting because I don't pay attention as much to this news. Doesn't really matter to me.
It's funny, like when you tune, like, what are the gamers up to? They're mad about Indiana Jones. They're
And
mad
when
about
they're
this lady character starring in a game.
Yeah.
The gamers are not okay. Yeah.
every now and then there's like this big
hmm
controversy in gaming, right? Like, oh, well, what trans characters,
Yep.
sexism, violence. There's always kind of up, like public outcry over a lot of these things. I think I'm more concerned when it's like when Blizzard, Activision, and all that stuff, right? Sexism at the workplace, toxic environment, like that sort
We'll
of
talk
like
about that soon.
even
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
harm. Yeah.
no.
So
We'll get to that.
Don't
soon.
worry, we've got that. So anyway, if you want to
yay,
hear,
great! I was looking forward to it. Awesome.
there is news here.
Okay, so Devindra, one of my
yes.
big questions was, as I was watching the trailer for this game and reading Jess's first look,
The game, which looks sick as hell, by the way. I do think this game looks fantastic.
Yeah, so I was wondering, okay, with the Uncharted series and everything, like, why isn't this a third-person game?
Mhm.
But then after, like, watching the trailer, I realized, okay, I think they want to make it really visceral. Like, there's a lot of hand-to-hand combat in this game.
Sure.
They want to make it feel like the movies did. The fight choreography in the Indiana Jones movies back then, just fight choreography overall,
Mhm.
was okay. It was
punchy punch.
fine.
Yeah.
And I think what they're trying to do is make you feel like you're the main character in the game, and like Indiana Jones was never known for like huge like martial arts maneuvers like Batman or anything.
Oh no, he's
You
known
can't
for
have,
shooting
like,
the guy swinging the sword.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So
that's
you
who
can't
he
really
is,
have
yeah.
like an Arkham Asylum, third person style like
I
Indiana
think
Jones game where Indy is
Yeah.
like breaking a Nazi's back over his knee.
they could have done some. I honestly prefer third person like angles like games too, because I like to see my characters when I'm running around. But I think that mostly this comes from Machine Games, right? In Machine Games, they did those the Wolfenstein, the most recent like Wolfenstein games, which are fantastic and good. And also, I did not really care to play like a modern Wolfenstein shooter, but they did great stuff when it came to like environmental storytelling, good writing. They did some interesting stuff with first person shooters. So I think it's just an interesting choice to do this. I think the camera pans out sometimes, so you do see the character, and in
Yeah.
cutscenes you see him too. We'll see how this goes. Go read Jess Condit's hands-on with this thing. The title is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle has a Nazi slapping mechanic, and that's
Gotta
just
love
neat
it.
to see. Gotta love it. Shout out to this game for doing that. Also in Microsoft news, there's a couple assistive tech things that they announced. There's a new Xbox adaptive joystick, which is a single stick type of thing, which looks like, honestly, it looks a lot like a VR controller, like something with the Oculus headset or something. But you can plug this into an existing Xbox controller, the adaptive controller, and gives you a bunch of controls that you can handle with just one hand. Let me see here. There are also some 3D printable files for adaptive thumbstick toppers. So you can download these files. They're free. You have to get access to the 3D printer. Talk to your local library because often they will have some of these devices. But you can print out these things to get like better grips on your phone too for people who have trouble with very typical gripping. There's also this cool thing. Let me see here. In partnership with 8BitDo, that controller company, there's the Lite SE 2.4G wireless controller, which is a gamepad with all the inputs on the top, has low resistance buttons and Hall effect joysticks. It also has those like giant 8BitDo the super buttons that they put on their mechanical keyboards, just like a big ass button you can hit and I guess program things too. So a lot of interesting options here too. It's a
I'm seeing
BioWave Proteus
CUD in the
controller.
chat
Yeah.
saying that it looks like a Wii nunchuck. That is not wrong.
It is not wrong, but it more specifically, if Microsoft were to be like, hey, maybe we should do a VR headset or something, this kind of looks like what a VR controller looks like, maybe without the motion controls. So that is cool. Also that the all series Xbox Series X, the all digital Xbox Series X, which we thought was kind of a joke when Microsoft announced it a couple months ago. You can pre-order that now. It's $450. It's going to be coming to the US on October 15th. It's only $50 cheaper than the disc version. That disc version, which by the way, often goes on sale for $400, sometimes even less. So I'm still a little baffled by this thing. I'm even more baffled by the $600 special edition, the which one which has a 2 terabyte drive and the disc drive, but it's $600. I don't know,
And
man.
we were
I
just
feel like
talking about how Xbox is only doing okay.
they're only doing so
So-
rather than like lowering the prices to ship more boxes, they're like, well, I don't know, man. People like us. We'd rather sell more games through Sony than make our boxes cheaper. So a really interesting calculation Microsoft is making there. Cherlynn, did you ever decide on an Xbox? Did you ever get the Series S? Because we've talked about that for a couple of years.
Never, baby. I'm
Never.
gonna get a PS5 Pro or whatever.
Never. That was a good time to avoid that. But I don't know, more Steam Deck stuff for you or those PC handhelds. I know you've been playing around with those.
Yeah, I think that actually the PC handhelds are probably the best option for Cherlynn.
As they get smaller too, because they're still big and unwieldy.
Yeah, smaller
right
is better. They're a bit
Mhm.
big and heavy right now.
Mhm.
I mean, I played a lot with I think the INAO. I mean, I played a little bit with the Steam Deck. And my Switch is still a beautiful ornament. Behind my
You can honestly play most of the like good indie games right now on Switch, so
Yep.
yeah,
you're not missing out on
might
much.
be pretty old Switch. Got it like right before the pandemic. So
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
me too.
But you probably had the updated
Yeah.
battery at least, if that was 2020.
Yeah, better battery for sure. I had that.
So you're good.
I mean, I think I'm interested in these games. I like the handheld games, but like I don't know, my habits have changed so much over the last 2 years. It's like, oh, I got into crocheting a lot. Oh, now I
That's
just
good. Do
sit
something.
around drawing. So.
You got into Vampire Survivors on your phone, right? And that made you a little
Sure
crazy.
did.
So I think you could do that on
Sure did.
Switch.
I am a beast at Vampire Survivors. I don't know what y'all talking about. I'm a
It's a great
gamer.
game. You're a total gamer. Borderlands 4 is coming, which feels like a threat. Gearbox and 2K Games announced that it's coming in 2025, which I think the impact of this announcement would have been maybe they were planning for the movie to go a little better. Maybe they were being like, oh yeah, people are hyped for Borderlands right now. Let's announce our next game. No, everybody hates the Borderlands movie. I called it a disaster. It's a huge mess. So I don't know who's excited for this thing, but hopefully it's better than Borderlands 3, which I recall being a little disappointing.
In
Borderlands
retrospect,
thoughts? Yeah?
could we have said that we knew that the Borderlands movie was not going to be that great when we saw that Kevin Hart was cast in it?
But he's not the problem. He's not the problem in that movie. The problem is that the script is bad. A lot of things are bad in that
Oh
movie.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Also, your
Is our
video is
stream-
frozen right now.
Our video is
Your-
frozen.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just your video is frozen right now.
Okay.
And
let me
now
see
it
here.
is
Oh,
back.
that's my camera. Let's see.
Oh, I guess everybody gets to look at me.
Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
gets to look at
Oh
Cherlynn.
no.
Okay. Camera resets. I think sometimes it gets warm because it's near my.
Oh,
Let me
near
move
the
away from
light.
my monitor. Hold on. Okay. It's a little bit away from the monitor, a little bit away from the heat. Okay.
So talking specifically about Borderlands 4,
Mhm.
I just wish that I had more of a squad to play it with because
Yeah.
I have been playing like Borderlands 1 and 2. I got those on sale as part of a kind of like buy the whole collection deal a couple of years ago. And I was having a good time playing it by myself, but I was like, I feel like I need more people. And like when I started playing this was a time kind of like I had taken a sabbatical from like online kind of
Mhm.
squad based games, and
Mhm.
now that I have been playing Helldivers so much, I've got like 125 hours in on
God
there.
damn, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I really want to like find a squad of people to like do other like squad based games with.
I mean, you've got a lot of options now. You've got all the other sorts of like what Valorant and whatnot. So I don't know. There's so many squad-based games right now. This is I do wonder, like, wouldn't the actual like evolution of Borderlands be like, let's do a Destiny type of thing where you're actually going on, multiplayer missions and stuff with people. I
True.
think because you could do co-op play and just like dick around in Borderlands, but it was never as robust as something like Destiny. So I don't know. That could be the thing. Did you see the story, Ben and Cherlynn, about the NVIDIA Ace virtual humans? Those are
I got
coming
a
to game.
lot to say about this, but
A
go
lot
on.
to say. These are so last year, I believe, NVIDIA showed off its Avatar Cloud Engine technology, Ace technology that's powering characters in some games. So basically, creating NPCs that will react to you the way like ChatGPT does, so that they would speak if you ask them a question or if you choose a certain prompt or something, they could like react to what you're saying or maybe react to your clothing, but also their model will like look like it's talking properly. They will like have a semi AI conversation. A lot of people were criticizing this as a way to like be like so you this means you don't need as many writers, right? This means you could just populate your games with this weird AI spouting avatars and not actually write dialogue for them or storylines or anything. That's the controversy. The news is that it's actually coming to a multiplayer mecha game called Mecha Break. I've not heard too much about this game, but it is actually happening. It's totally real. What did you think about this news, Ben?
So I watched the video
Mm-hmm.
where, you're basically in kind of like a cyberpunk esque world, and like you're going into a sushi shop and you're talking with the like sushi shop owner. And I think it's cool that you can use your voice to interact with this AI character. I think that that's a really cool like method of input, and something that's probably going to pop up in a lot more games. But when the character started talking, it felt very wooden. It
Mm-hmm.
felt like you were talking to a robot. The voice didn't have very much color to it. And hey, I'm a voice guy, so
Oh, you can
I
tell.
I really want that to feel more alive. And so I was thinking, how would we end up using this technology? Because I think that it could be useful in some cases,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely not as the main player character. Definitely not as, the next rung of NPCs.
Yeah, these
Important
are like NPCs
NPCs,
and weird submissions off at the end of the map or something. You need to
yeah,
give
should
them dialogue.
probably like the most important, 5 or so NPCs should probably still be written and acted. But
Mhm.
where this could end up being really useful is if you have like a big open world game. I'm thinking about like Assassin's Creed or something where
Yeah.
you're like always running through these like crowded marketplaces or something, and you just hear people like yelling things. That if you have a couple of people doing background acting like lines, and then the rest of it generated by NVIDIA Ace,
Mhm.
then that could be a good way of like stretching your budget a little bit further
Sure.
and making the overall
You're making their
world
case
feel a
for
bit
them.
more alive.
Yeah, yeah. You are absolutely right, Ben. That's, I'm sure, what they're all thinking. I hate that idea because especially like when I was playing the latest like Assassin's Creed game, which is set way back in like I don't know, it's in the Middle East thousands of years ago, and walking through the towns, like walking through the villages and seeing the way they constructed it and seeing like people interact with dialogue that has been recorded by humans and written by humans. like it felt like so alive. I was kind of astounded by that. And if you replace that ambience with AI stuff, like
Mm.
that to me will kill the realism of the game, and I'll just feel like I'm just walking through the simulation right now. I'm not walking through ancient Baghdad or anything, right? I feel like that'll kill it more. So I'm sure you all have thoughts. Podcast at Engadget.com. Listen to what you think about this. I'm not a huge fan. Not a huge fan of
I just hope it
yeah.
doesn't kill the art of the like little in joke kind of world building thing. One of my favorites from Mass Effect was there was that one race of aliens that felt like it needed to, or like in order to communicate with other species, it needed to preface the emotion that it was putting into its sentence.
It
And
had to say it in words. It's amazing.
yeah,
Love
and
it.
then
Love it.
like when you're in an elevator or something, there's a little ad for all that alien species production of like Hamlet or something.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's like that's very funny. And if we lost that, I would feel like we're losing so much from like, I don't know, quirky little world building things in video games.
Quirky little things. I mean, that's just good writing. That's human ingenuity and creativity.
Yeah.
There's maybe something interesting that'll happen with like, hey, emergent AI as avatars. That is like we love like game systems. You see what people do with like the systems in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, or think back to Far Cry 2, where people are just like having a lot of fun with the rules and the mechanics of that world. I'm sure it's going to lead to some of that stuff. I'm just worried that some of these companies will over rely on all of it. Let's move on to Black Myth Wukong, though, which is a game that is totally killing it. Cherlynn, I feel like this may be up your alley too, because this is a Journey to the West game, basically. It's sort of like an
I mean, I
adaptation.
love the idea. Is it a fighting game? You like fight?
It is very much. It's like a Dark Souls game. It's like God of
Okay, but
War
it
meets
isn't
Dark Souls.
actually a Souls-like game. That's the thing.
It isn't.
It looks
but
like a Souls-like game, but it isn't.
It has the mechanics. It has the healing. It has the crazy ass bosses. Like what I'm saying is, it is very much God of War, the sort of like adventuring around, not as open as like the way Elden Ring was, but very like in specific spaces. It feels like Dark Souls. It feels like actually playing early Dark Souls, but also with the big ass bosses from Elden Ring and even God of War. The newer games ended up doing a lot of that. So
Yeah,
that's what this game is.
in trying to get myself up to speed on this game, I was watching a lot of videos, watching some streamers and stuff. And the thing that I saw from so many of the YouTube videos is saying that this isn't a Souls-like game. And then when I watched actual gameplay, it showed, big bosses. Like when you hit a boss or when you hit one of these like larger enemies, all you're doing is chip damage, and like the fights are pretty
You have to
long, which makes me feel like it is kind of more Souls-like than not.
It is
I don't
more Souls-like
understand.
than it isn't. I think some people are being weird and precious because gamers are weird. But no, you have to walk around and light like lanterns, and this is where you respawn when you die. The big thing is you don't lose all your stuff. You don't lose all your experience and your items when you die, so you can just go back and keep hammering at a boss, which is something you cannot do in a Souls game very easily. I guess it's more like when you're exploring somewhere and you die from some stupid enemy and you lose like a lot of good experience. That's the stuff that breaks my heart. That just doesn't happen in this game. You can explore and do whatever. Anyway, the news is that it was released this week and it broke Steam's concurrent single player record launch within hours of its launch. So that is an insane thing for it to happen. I think the numbers we saw,
Not so much of an asterisk though. The concurrent players, so many of them were in China. Like this
I was
is
going to ask where they
being really
were.
enthusiastic.
They were in
about
China
in
because
China.
So
And then
the
like
thing
a
about this
small minority of people, like single digit percentage of people in the US were playing this game.
What's up,
and
Cherlynn?
they were all Chinese too.
Well, a lot of people were
It's us
interested in this
Chinese
game.
people in Asia, in America. No, I mean, I'm not surprised by the numbers. I think the Wukong title is interesting. Like, I wanted to ask you about like, because y'all both delve into the similarities to Dark Souls and like talk about the mechanics a lot and the like components of the story. But like, I'm like, are the story characters that I like from growing up, are they there? Like, does the Monkey King fall in love with the Spider Demon? Does he?
I've only played so far. Yeah.
I know. So that's what I would be curious to see, if they've like faithfully adapted the sort of story things that me, and I'm sure those concurrent streamers who are hugely Chinese are looking for. That's the sort of like vibe we're looking for, maybe. And
you play as the Monkey King, so I'll give you that. You got the staff, you got the cloud he flies on. What is funny though is that I started watching OG Dragon Ball with my daughter, and she is very much
Mhm.
into original Dragon Ball. I'm like, look, Monkey King. There's the
Mhm.
staff. There's
Right,
his
the
cloud. He's
so
he has a
here's my
tail.
thing too. There have been a lot of like, not that I'm not talking about like
Mhm.
specifically Dragon Ball, but there have been like a lot of other adaptations,
Yes.
maybe even
Yes.
Western adaptations of the Monkey King story that don't feel as faithful. Like I remember Monkey King appearing somewhere as like a playable character or like in
Mhm.
some other like smaller movie type thing as a baddie or something, right? And I'm just like, that's not what the Monkey King story is. It's a story
It's
about redemption and like,
it's about redemption, yeah, and the
yeah,
wily monkey.
so
Anyway, I just want to point out that crazy numbers from the game. What we were saying is 88% of the players were in China. So US was at a mere 3%.
what a nice coincidence. We
What a
love the
nice
Yeah,
number
no, I
8.
was
Yes.
wondering about that.
Yes.
Like, how
Very
is
lucky.
it that it was 88%?
Very
Like
lucky.
that just
Dang.
seems like the books were cooked
We
on it.
gamed it, y'all.
I'm
That's
not
how
Let's be clear, I am not
It could easily have
accusing
been
them
cooked.
of cooking the books on this, but it just seems like a really interesting coincidence.
Well, let me put the context down here. So this is essentially China's first AAA game, the first like game that is on the
Thank
level
you.
of
That
something
helps.
like God of War.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm pretty
of
sure
course.
if
Oh,
the
then it was
government was
probably well
yeah,
adapted. Yeah.
if no, but also but if the government was like, we really
Oh,
gotta get the numbers on this game. Like
you could have
what
just turned
can
on
we do?
everyone's
Yeah.
gaming consoles.
Just those consoles that are turned off because of gaming lockdown time. Yeah, the government's like, yes,
They still
please,
turned
please,
on.
all get free copies
And,
of the game. I don't know. No,
and then
no,
they
we
hit
don't
the
know if
88
any of
number.
that
They were
has
like, we're good,
happened.
we're done.
I think a lot of people in China definitely wanted to play this game. I'm playing through it right now. A couple of things worth mentioning because the developer Game Science was like in the news too because apparently there was a document that went out to some streamers or not streamers but people who were um
Like got the
covering
first
the game.
look at the game or something.
The people who were covering the game mainly in China, but apparently this went out to other countries, like a couple of other European countries too. There was a list of forbidden subjects in their review agreement, which include do not mention politics, do not mention feminist propaganda, do not mention COVID-19 or China's video game industry policies, the stuff we're talking about right now, and other content that instigates negative discourse. I also believe like violence was one thing, even though this is a game about the Monkey King like bashing giant gods in their heads with his stick. Just kind of funny. There was that whole thing. Game Science did not respond to an email. I'm looking at the New York Times reporting here. But this is not too surprising, right? Because we deal with all sorts of limitations when it comes to when we cover games. It's mainly just like it's an embargo. Like, hey, please don't spoil all the storylines. It's just like an agreement to like not spoil all the big surprises in the game. Please, like an embargo is like, okay, everyone is going to try to publish at this time or sometime after. That's like the general agreement we'll go to, but certainly not content of our reviews, not like avoiding certain topics. Yeah.
Also, the leader of Game Science has, I don't know, he's just a poster. Like, imagine this most whacked out stuff that
Yeah.
Elon Musk has been posting about recently. This comes back to the idea of are gamers okay? Like,
Gamers are not okay.
I don't
There's a
even want to mention
yeah.
it. It's just like kind of nasty, like fratty culture,
Hmm.
in a Chinese design studio, which
Hmm.
makes me think, oh man, are all gamers the same? That's
I,
kind of sad.
I think a lot it's in especially series that mostly consist of dudes in an industry that is very dude heavy. Like, unfortunately, it leans to that. There is great reporting over at IGN last year. It's called "How Black Myth Wukong Developers' History of Sexism is Complicating Its Journey to the West," written by Rebecca Valentine and Ki-Hoon Chan. This is a good piece, worth reading because, yeah, essentially the culture of the studio does not seem great. It seems very, very fratty, very much like a boys club. I will tell you all this. I'm 10 hours into this game, and now I
Ah,
do feel
okay.
guilty about like playing it because I
Mm,
did not realize how fully shitty they were.
yeah.
But
Mm.
not a single woman. 10 hours of me playing this game, talking to other
Wow.
creatures, talking to gods, talking to like other people I'm fighting or people like living on the mountain. Not a single female
That is
character
So
That
Okay,
is
but
so
unusual.
lore question
on.
for
Yeah.
Cherlynn.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sure that's what you're about to ask,
Yeah.
Ben, but just
Yeah.
let me just tell you the story itself is heavily male dominant,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The story of the journey to the West is this Monkey King, this monk, and like his 3 disciples, including the Monkey King. So there's a pig boy,
Big boy.
and Tan San Zhang is the monk, and then he has like a dude with the burly facial hair that's one of his disciples, and then the Monkey King is like the second disciple, right, or the third. And along the way they go all the way to the west to like retrieve something, I forget what. the key point of the whole entire story, and I forget, but along the way they encounter demons and you know things that are meant to like, they want to eat the monk's flesh basically because it will give them immortality or something, and they're demons and they're lesser beings in the lore, right? So 2 of the demons that they encounter, or 3, the spider demon and the 9-tailed fox, or the fox demon, or whatever, 蜘蛛精跟狐狸精, these are both women. These are
I've not
probably
encountered
among the
these
only
characters
2.
yet, so I don't know.
So probably you have encountered them because they might be like bigger like enemies to fight. But I also will point out that in the historic telling of the story, that these 2 are known to seduce the Monkey King and the monk. They're attempted to, and it's very sexualized that way. And also, like it kind of filtered out into like slang. I wouldn't say slang, but like the vernacular where in Mandarin the words 蜘蛛精 spider demon or 狐狸精 fox demon mean women who are like, I don't want to use the S word, but you know what I mean. Like they're a little promiscuous, or they're a little more out there,
So
right?
you're
And
saying like
it's
the
used
story
as an
itself is
insult.
like inherently sexist too?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm
So
not surprised. Not at all
yeah.
surprised, but it does seem like the game is reflecting that. Listen, I think a modern developer could be like, well, screw that, right? Like we could change things up because we are retelling the story.
Could be. It would have been so
Could be.
cool.
Would
But
have been
it
so
is also
cool.
China.
It is also
Where
China.
like you mentioned those stipulations, and in media and in entertainment, they're very careful about the messaging, which is
Most
why I
definitely.
was like nodding along when you said those things that they've stipulated, because it tracks with what I
It
understand.
tracks. Anyway, game is okay so far. Like I'm enjoying it at least, but it does suck that this company has a history of this. I feel like this is like something, if they cared at all, just a thing they could have noted, but no, it doesn't seem like they care at all. Also, rewatching original Dragon Ball, you learn pretty much that Bulma is the goat. Nothing would happen in Goku's story without Bulma. So shout out to Bulma. My daughter Sophia loves Bulma. She's like, Bulma has all these like capsules. She's got all these vehicles. She's cool. Bulma is super cool. Shout out to Bulma. Oh man, we are running long, so I think we're gonna let's cut this Samsung story, and I'm just gonna move through news real quick. And we don't really have. Do you have pop culture picks this week, Cherlynn? We could
Sure
just,
do, but I can.
Okay.
We can jump straight to that instead of working on if you want.
Yeah,
we'll do that. Okay, I'll run through news real quick. Okay, so that's Gamescom. Go take a look at all of our coverage from that event. And if you're playing Black Myth Wukong, let me know what you think. Let's move on to some other news real quick. A couple things I wanted to shout out. I wrote up something that is so deeply nerdy, but I'm very proud that we put it on the site because like this is Engadget, okay? X-Mems, the company that Billy Steele has written about, which has produced solid state drivers for earbuds and things like that. So not like traditional speakers with like the coil and the magnet, all that stuff. Solid state silicon that can work as your earbud driver. This company has used that same technology to produce a 1 millimeter tall fan on a chip. So this is 1 millimeter tall, essentially a chip that can work as a fan. It's using like ultrasonics to move air around within it.
Oh,
So
that's really interesting.
it's really
Isn't
cool.
that crazy?
So the whole idea is
I
like
was wondering, like, where are the moving parts?
Where are the
Is
moving
fan
parts?
blade really, really tiny?
Ultrasonics, Ben. Ultrasonics. So anyway, this company, and they're using MEMS technology, which is micro electromechanical systems technology. That is essentially like really, really, really small machinery, but in this case with no moving parts. But essentially, like you could put one or two or a couple of these fans inside a future smartphone, inside a tablet, inside a device like the MacBook Air M2, which died on me at Apple's campus because I was working in the sun, and that computer has no fan. So when you have no fan, the heat from all your work is just kind of trapped in there. So I just think this is really cool. This is something that could end up being in devices in the future, could really change the way like ultra thin devices are made. Like if the rumors about Apple wanting to do that crazy ultra thin iPhone are true, like maybe we got to get some airflow in that. And I just think that idea is just think it's neat. What do you guys think?
I really hope that this doesn't drive dogs crazy.
It's they
I mean,
say it's silent, but yeah,
ultrasonic. Yeah, so
ultrasonic.
it
Yeah,
has to be
it
like
could.
way outside of the hearing range of like any creature. Hopefully,
It could. Cherlynn, thoughts?
I mean, I think the technology, like idea itself is really cool. I think fan on a chip, like just that alone, like we were all like,
Mhm.
Devindra, you gotta like look at this one. And then you were like, yes, hell yeah. Like it's like
Yes.
I think we all nerded out like a group, as a
It's
group nerded
good
out about
nerd,
this.
good nerd stuff. Do want to point out there is like a competing product for. I hate saying it out loud. For they are producing the Airjet Mini, which I believe The Verge and other sites have covered. And Foror's thing is 2.5 millimeters to 2.8 millimeters thick, so a couple millimeters taller.
Just a bit.
And it also looks like a bigger package in this thing. Like the thing about XMEMS technology, it looks like a tiny little chip. So it could easily go inside your iPhone where there's this little space on real estate. It's the sort of thing you could put it right on the GPU, right on the APU. Looks cool. Could change the way our devices are designed. So check out my coverage of the XMEMS chip. We wrote a story. San Francisco, real quick, is aiming to take down AI undressing websites in a new lawsuit. This is just good news because the fact that there is a prevalence of these apps both on the web and in app stores is absolutely disgusting, and we are like fully unequipped to deal with them right now. So this is a good thing. Hopefully we see more of this on a federal level too, not just San Francisco. And something I wanted to ask Cherlynn, because we saw this news drop, Chick-fil-A, the chicken sandwich place, is launching a streaming service for reality TV and its own programming. What do you think of Chick-fil-A's streaming service?
Okay, first of all,
yeah,
I should have paid better attention to our show notes.
Yes, you should. Or not. Let me surprise you.
No, that's actually great. That's really funny that you weren't aware of this, because now we're getting your real reaction.
What are your first impressions on this news?
This is my first. Why? What are they going to show me? Are this
It feels to me
reality
like
chicken
executives
TV
are like channeling an idea. Like they took out a Ouija board, but instead of communicating with spirits, they're communicating with the spirit of like 2015. And they're like, okay, what is the best business logic for growing our national company? Let's just do a streaming service, because streaming services are really hot, right?
Oh, sure.
No, dude, they're going like they're all consolidating because the Piper has asked to be paid in terms of streaming.
The Paradise in the chat is like, are the cows the producers cut as CUD is like chicken dating show? I'm sorry, if this is the actual content we're expecting, hell yes.
I mean,
like,
Animal Planet has like puppy football. Like we have
why
a lot of
not?
Planet.
Yeah, instead of Love Island, it could be Love Pasture.
Listen, if they do like chicken farm content and then they slaughter the chickens and fry them, I think that is kind of concerning. But I will also say that have y'all seen the KFC like Hallmark movie?
I've not seen it. I know it
exists. Oh my god, where Mario Lopez plays Colonel Sanders and then he falls in love with a woman.
I think maybe that was their inspiration. Like we gotta out chicken KFC. We gotta do something.
So good. I'm sorry if I've gone ultrasonic in my
That's all
pitch,
good.
but
I think Chick-fil-A is flying too close to the sun. I think that's what it is. Like they are doing really well and they've just got all this money. Gonna do all
also,
this
like Chick-fil-A is notorious for like, did a cow write this sign? It's like EET more chicken, like all spelled wrong.
It's quite
so
funny.
I can only imagine what the closed captions would look like.
Oh man. But also Chick-fil-A is notoriously a very religiously leading.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too.
Again, the Hallmark movie may actually be a good
maybe.
Yeah, no, maybe that's what I was thinking about. It could be kind of like Hallmark, or it could be like
what if we had our own Hallmark?
Yeah.
Right, but like what if they bought Farmers Only, which I don't know if y'all know is like a Farmers Only dating website.
Yeah.
And then they were like chicken farmers only. And then they put them on a show.
Okay. So we had funny news. How about some WTF news? Because this is a crazy story, and I'm just bringing it up because it is freaking wild. It's also basically the plot of Industry Season 3. British billionaire Mike Lynch was recently found dead after his yacht sank several days ago, or it may have been a week ago at this point. I'm mentioning this because this guy is involved in a lot of shady stuff. Like back when I was covering HP and startups and stuff, he was the CEO of Autonomy, and HP bought that for $11 billion. And not too long after, HP was like, oh crap, we made a huge mistake. $8.8 billion write down just for buying Autonomy. He and his former VP of finance were basically like, I believe San Francisco was charging them for a while. They were recently acquitted in June on he was acquitted on 15 counts of fraud. This is a guy was just a bonkers life. So he disappeared from his boat, now proven to be dead. We think, oh, this is a kind of a weird story, right? His former VP of finance, Stephen Chamberlain, died mysteriously this week after being hit by a car.
Extremely mysterious.
Extremely like bank who's very pissed off about the billions of dollars that they probably lost because of your deal or your business practices. Extremely like, oh, we're going to make you go bye-bye now. Anyway, that is purely conjecture, purely conspiracy theory.
Yeah, remember that episode of Breaking Bad where they coordinated a hit on like 5 different possible witnesses in different prisons all in the same 5 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it is wild. Like there are some things that happen in real life that is totally freaky. I don't know. There are reports about what like ExxonMobil does to reporters, like when they go cover oil fields or stuff somewhere. Reporters have said like, my hotel reservation was canceled. Things are just really weird, like weird shit that these companies have the power to do, folks. Like we see stories about the mobs and stuff, but don't forget who has all the money and all the power. Just dropping that weird story right there. Anyway, watch Industry if you want another angle or another type of story like this. Cherlynn, again, you should watch that show. I think you'd enjoy it.
I know.
Quick thing. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to point out that Devindra, I you know me, I like to rewatch Schitt's Creek until the day I die before I like even start a new show. So
well, it's more like you want some nice drama, nice steamy drama.
When I
in your
do want
life.
some nice non-science fiction drama, I will go
drama with like human characters who have flaws, who are very ambitious. Like, I think you
Doesn't
would.
it sound like this other show, this Succession?
It's very. In fact, I wrote a whole piece about that, Cherlynn. So you should go read that review. Flying Lotus, the artist, one of my favorite artists, has confirmed that he composed 2 Apple ringtones, Daybreak and Chalet, which have been on iPhone since 2019. So that's cool. It's cool to me. Is it cool to you, Ben?
Must have been a nice bag. Must have been a really nice bag. And this is also has like a podcast connection because the podcast 20,000 Hertz, which is a podcast all about sound design in movies, in your phones, just like, why does a certain tone play when like you make a mistake in Mac OS or something? How did they make that sound that you hear so often? And so they were doing a little series called The Sound of Apple, and they talked about it. And so now Flying Lotus was like, okay, I didn't just ghost produce these. I can say, yes, I produced these 2 ringtones, and I'll drop these 2 ringtones in on the audio version.
That's super cool. I've switched back to Daybreak, but they have the same like layers and vibes of like Flying Lotus and stuff. So I'm like, okay, we should probably told that. This is like the rumors about Michael Jackson working on the Sonic 3 soundtrack. This is like that level of like geek and artistry kind of combining, which I don't think was ever fully confirmed. Like maybe he did some consulting or something, but that soundtrack did slap. So there's that. Let's move on to some pop culture picks for the week. What do you got, Cherlynn?
So when I thought I had pop culture picks this week, I realized I might have already shared it with this podcast. But just a reminder that I still watch Scary Interesting Till I Die because it's hilarious. I mean, hilariously morbid. It's just hilarious that I listen to those stories of people getting stuck in caves and underwater diving accidents.
Why would you do this to yourself?
Because I enjoy it somehow. But so I think I have mentioned this right on the podcast. I think Ben or Dev, you might remember Scary Interesting, like cave exploring gone wrong. Anyway, so instead of that sort of pop culture pick, I'm going to give y'all a different one, which is I recently discovered, because it surfaced on my app, YouTube has these games now. Have y'all seen these? I don't know.
I'm aware that they're
games, So it's not like new information. It's not brand new information, as Phoebe Buffay would say, but I just started playing some of them, and they're quite hilariously not great, but also somewhat addictive in classic me way. Where
Classic
like,
Cherlynn, yes. Classic the game included on the airplane TV. Cherlynn, yes.
yeah,
Okay.
there there is a game that I've been playing on YouTube Games called Phone Case Designer.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my recommendation this
Thank you
week.
for that, Cherlynn. Actually, Ben, do you want to shout anything out? Because I need to run to the bathroom right now, I think. So,
Okay, go
Ben,
for it.
give
We'll
us
take.
something and you guys wrap the thing. We'll go
Yeah,
right back to
Yeah.
you.
I get to do a producer pick. That's cool. Okay, so
Yay.
a couple of years ago, there was a book that came out called Uncanny Valley by Anna Weiner or Weiner.
Mm,
I think it might be Weiner.
mm,
And it's generally like a story that I am very familiar with, which is like someone graduates from college with a degree in like English or something. They go
mhm,
work in
mhm,
like publishing. This is a
mhm,
nonfiction book.
mhm,
It's about a woman's experience going from the publishing world to working in startups in the early 2010s. She started
mhm,
out working for this like big data company when big
mhm,
data
mhm,
was first rising, and
mhm.
then like moved over to GitHub, and is just talking about her personal experience with the weird culture of the Bay Area during that time, because
Right.
in that time of like the early to mid 2010s was when like the population of the Bay Area, especially like San Francisco, Oakland area, was really turning over. There were a lot of people, a lot of young professionals coming from all over the country to work at these startups, making a lot of money, like
Mhm, mhm,
talking about doing ayahuasca trips, and how even when they're tripping, they're thinking about like B2B business solutions. It's strange. It's not something that I wasn't already aware of, but it's just fun to listen to. I'm listening
mhm.
to the audiobook.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we all do the pop culture picks from different people because different people have different tastes, and you
Different
have your
taste.
taste, and I love to play silly little YouTube games. So there you go. Simon B in the chat says
Yeah.
YouTube games are too addicting, so I feel like I feel supported.
Where
So
were
there
you
you go. And
back in the
Devindra, welcome.
Facebook games era, Cherlynn? Like, were
Yeah,
you
no,
Candy
were you deep
were
in
you
Farmville or
deep in
not?
that? Yeah.
PVZ. Uh, no, I didn't play Farmville, even though I think I could have, and I think a lot of people in my circles did play them. It feels
Hmm.
like a
Okay,
Okay.
so Dev, do you have a pick, or do you
Yeah,
want
I'll do real quick. I do want to shout out that one of the greatest TV shows ever made, which has been inaccessible for a long time, Homicide: Life on the Street. One of the best cop shows ever made is now
Wire Before the
streaming.
Wire?
Wire Before the Wire, based on David Simon's book, with a lot of people who went on to produce other TV shows like Bosch. It is now streaming on Peacock. It's an incredible
nice.
show starring the late great Andre Braugher. So you miss Andre Braugher from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. A lot of great actors, like characters that were
Yeah, yeah.
established in Homicide, went on to Law and Order and other things. So it's a fantastic show. You should check it out, especially the first few seasons. It's streaming right now. I have the DVD set, which was just on sale, but I don't. I'm still happy to have that because I feel like the digital version can go any time. You gotta buy the things you love. So that's what I've got for this week. You can wrap
Nice.
it, Sean. Mhm.
All right. We're gonna wrap excuse me for the podcast, but we'll quickly talk to the audience after the live chat after this, I think. But we are running low on time. Anyway. Well, that's it for the episode this week, everyone. Thank you as always for tuning in. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our former managing editor, Terrence O'Brien. The podcast is produced by Ben Elman. You can find Dev or Devindra online at
At Devindra on Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon, the usual places. And I chat about movies and TV at the Filmcast at thefilmcast.com.
If you want to hit me up, I am occasionally on Twitter still. I am at Cherlynlow there, CHERLYNNLOW. But you can hit me up on threads where I am posting engagement bait at CHERLYNNSTAGRAM. Always email us your thoughts about this podcast at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review on iTunes or whatever you're getting your podcast on because that helps people discover us, and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts.
Okay, I wanted to shout out that we have chat user CJ by Steps in here. Man, I haven't seen you in a long time. Welcome
And
back.
Mo Squire. Mo Squire says Farmville was a dark time. I want to shout out to my cousin Jason who's tuning in. Hello.
Hello. My camera keeps overheating.
Yeah,
Okay.
your camera keeps
It's going off.
All right.
So yeah, thanks everyone for joining us in the chat today. We've missed seeing you. We know that some of our more regular viewers like Mark Dell couldn't make it here today, but we do not blame you whenever you couldn't make a live taping, as the old people call it. Old people being myself. But yeah, we appreciate
Recorded in
you
front of a
whenever you
studio
can show up.
audience.
Exactly. You guys are our live studio audience, and you get a shout out, and you get a shout out, and you get a bookmark.
Tom Rogers said, "Thanks for another great podcast. Appointment viewing. Thank
That's
you."
great.
In
Thank
the
you.
world of streaming and everything, the concept of appointment viewing has been getting like more and more
Never
niche.
heard of that term.
Oh yeah, the idea of like I have to be home because I want to watch MASH
That's
or
great.
something.
You know what's
Okay, I
also
see.
interesting is that I've noticed our YouTube the numbers for the post live stream stuff. People are tuning in to the stream and
Yeah,
do
no, the
stuff,
Pixel
so
stuff
that's cool.
did really well. Yeah.
Yeah, so
thank
if
you
you're
all,
watching
no matter
this,
how you're
like,
watching,
a couple of weeks from now, it's now Thursday, August 22nd. Hello, people from the future.
Tom.
Come watch one of the shows live if you can.
Yeah.
Oh, Thursday morning ritual for Simon. That's so sweet.
Love it. Love it.
It's cut. CUD says make sure to send Mark a copy of the podcast on VHS. Yes, all the like old shout outs.
No, I'm
I think
gonna
this
send
is
it
time
on
for us to.
Betamax.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, time for us to say goodbye to everybody. So
All right,
drop a
thanks,
goodbye so we can say bye to y'all. Daniel Diaz, Simon B, Cud, Tom Rogers. I know Mo Squire just said something. Paradise said nice things. My hair was on fire, but like not on fire, but like looked good this morning too. I was pretty happy.
Yeah,
Brian
that's why the
Mitchell.
alarm was
Hair
happening.
is fire and hair.
That's
on
why
fire.
my fire alarm was going off because my hair was so fire. There we go.
So goodbye to Eduardo, goodbye to Tom Rogers, goodbye to Simon B, goodbye to Daniel Diaz, who's talking about Rebel Moon, even though it was 3 hours long. Congratulations for getting through that.
Good God.
Goodbye to, I don't know, somebody named Cherlynn Lowe, Platform Fanatic, Paradise with 4 eyes.
BD Rutul, dude named Charlie. We love dude named Charlie.
Yeah.
Yash Shrivasta, Rivu Data, Advocate High Court Calcutta. That's your whole username.
Kiki Kokinu. So thank you everybody for being in the chat. Like I always say, you remember stuff we forget. You bring in context that we wouldn't have otherwise thought of. You make the podcast better. The podcast comes to you via Devindra, who's on OBS. I'm doing much lazier, or not much less lazy camera switching, although I was getting a little dicey with the camera switching a little earlier. But I'm watching chat. I'm making notes. I'm doing all these other producer
you're doing stuff. If I ever get my the thingy, the little
Stream Deck
set up
or something.
Stream Deck could help. Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, y'all.
We're out.
Bye.
Bye.